My name is Jake Miller. I went to sleep as a burnt-out corporate drone and woke up as a trophy husband to a billionaire heiress. Faced with the divorce papers, my ice queen wife slid across the table. All I wanted to do was coast, to ride this gravy train until the wheels fell off. What I didn't know was that she could hear every single thought in my head. Damn, she's gorgeous. Colder than a server farm in winter, but still. It's fine. As long as she keeps the food coming, I'll do whatever she wants. Her pen stopped moving. Jake Miller, was a king of the corporate grind in my last life. In this one, I was a kept man. I woke up, the new memories meshing with the old. I'd gone from an analyst who worked until dawn, trading my soul for KPIs, to a guy whose only job was to spend his wife's money. The catch? The original Jake had a wandering eye, got caught, and was now facing eviction from paradise. Right now, I was sinking into a leather sofa big enough to sleep 5 of me. Across from me sat my wife, Victoria Sinclair, the CEO of Sinclair Enterprises. She wore a bespoke power suit that probably cost more than my first car, her dark hair coiled in an elegant bun that exposed the pale, graceful curve of her neck. A pair of delicate, gold-rimmed glasses perched on her nose, and the eyes behind them were colder than a venture capitalist's rejection email. She pushed a file across the marble coffee table. Sign it. Her voice was devoid of emotion, like Siri announcing a traffic jam. I glanced down. The words divorce agreement were practically glowing. My stomach dropped. Crap, there goes my meal ticket. In my past life, I'd worked myself into an early grave trying to afford a condo the size of a walk-in closet. Being reborn had taught me a valuable lesson. The hustle? The grind? It's all a scam. The ultimate truth of the universe is kicking back and doing nothing. This document was a direct assault on my newfound philosophy. I skimmed the terms. Asset division, I get nothing. Compensation, $1 million. $1 million sounded like a lot, but in a world where everyone drove a supercar, what was it really? Gas money? Enough to give me another soul-crushing job? Unacceptable. My goal was to become a professional freeloader, a perfectly content goldfish in the luxurious aquarium of this mansion, until the end of time. $1 million to make me go away? My quarterly bonus was more than that. No way. I need more. Enough to keep me comfortable for the rest of my life. Enough to never have to look at a price tag again. But just asking for cash is tacky. I need a plan. I have to make her want to give me more. Damn, she's gorgeous. Colder than a server farm in winter, but still. It's fine. As long as she keeps the food coming, I'll do whatever she wants. I'm starving. I haven't even had breakfast. I looked up, arranging my face into an expression of profound heartbreak, ready to deliver an Oscar-worthy performance. But before I could speak, I saw Victoria's hand, poised a sign, freeze in midair. She lifted her head. For the first time, those icy eyes wavered. A flicker of confusion, a hint of suspicion, was aimed directly at me. You, she began, then stopped. My heart seized. What's happening? Did she see through my act? No way. I practiced this look in the mirror. It's pure De Niro. Victoria's brow furrowed even deeper. She was silent for a few seconds, then abruptly pulled the agreement back. We'll put the divorce on hold, she said, standing up to loom over me. Come with me. I was stunned. What? No divorce? My brilliant plan to get more money hasn't even started. Where are we going? City Hall to start the mandatory waiting period? Whatever, as long as there's food involved. Victoria's body seemed to stiffen for a fraction of a second. Without another glance at me, she turned and walked away, leaving only a clipped command hanging in the air. Get changed. I'll wait for you downstairs. I watched her go, completely baffled. What the hell was she up to? Still, the immediate crisis was averted. My long-term meal ticket was safe for now. I let out a cheerful whistle and went upstairs to change. I didn't see her at the doorway, leaning against the frame and letting out a long, shuddering breath. She took off her glasses, rubbing her temples, her eyes wild with a cocktail of shock and disbelief. She must be overworked, she thought. Auditory hallucinations. But how could she explain the crystal-clear, bizarrely logical, and insufferably smug voice that had just played out in her mind? This useless husband of hers, a man she hadn't exchanged more than a few dozen words within 3 years of marriage, a man known only for his partying and extravagance. Had that going on in his head? More money? Never look at a price tag again? Victoria Sinclair's entire worldview had just been hit by a freight train. I changed into what I considered a respectable polo shirt and chinos and followed Victoria into a Rolls-Royce Cullinan. The air inside was filled with a faint, cool perfume, just like her. The driver, an older guy named Frank, glanced at me in the rearview mirror, his disdain palpable. I got it. The whole world thought I didn't deserve Victoria Sinclair, but they didn't understand my ambition, or lack thereof. What's so bad about being a trophy husband? No work, no meetings, no sucking up to the boss. I sleep in every day. You couldn't trade this life for a kingdom. This driver, though, what's with the dirty look? Hey, pal, how much do you make in a month? Busting your ass in traffic? I make more than you lying down. Jealous much? Ahem. Frank, the driver, flinched, and a massive car swerved slightly. Beside me, Victoria sat with her eyes closed, feigning rest, but I saw her eyelid twitch. She heard it. She heard again. The man's inner monologue was like an unmutable stream of comments flooding her brain, and the content was utterly shameless. Her original plan had been to take me to the Sinclair family estate. In front of everyone, she would finalize the divorce, crushing any lingering hopes I might have. But now, she was hesitating. She wanted to observe. Was this man truly a lost cause, or was he hiding something in a way she couldn't possibly comprehend? The car glided smoothly into the gates of the Sinclair estate. In the living room, most of the key family members were already assembled. At the head was Grandfather Sinclair, radiating a quiet authority. Next to him sat Victoria's uncle, Robert Sinclair, and his precious son, my dear cousin, Trevor. The moment Trevor saw me, his lips curled into a sneer. Well, if it isn't the family's greatest asset. I hear you had a wild night at Eclipse yesterday. He held up his phone, displaying a photo of me surrounded by several heavily made-up women. This was a mess left by the original Jake. I sighed internally. Here we go. Classic family drama. Trevor is like a damn mosquito, just buzzing around to be annoying. The photo's not bad, though it makes my 6-foot frame look like 5'7". But does he really think this is enough to get me kicked out? Please, if I were Victoria, I'd torpedo that waterfront redevelopment project he's managing. I heard he leveraged everything he owns to get it off the ground, pull the rug out from under him. He wouldn't even know where to go cry. Then we'd finally get some peace and quiet. On the outside, I maintained a perfect mask of panic and shame, staring at the floor and saying nothing, playing the part of a guilty screw-up to a T. Victoria, seated in the main armchair, lifted a teacup, blowing gently on the surface. Her gaze, hidden behind her lenses, shifted to Trevor. My silent words, "Pull the rug out from under him," were echoing in her mind. Ruthless but effective. Trevor was still running his mouth. Victoria, I'm not trying to tell you what to do, but are you really going to keep this guy around for Thanksgiving? He's an embarrassment to the Sinclair name. Grandfather Sinclair was frowning now, his gaze settling on Victoria. Everyone was waiting for her to act, to finally throw me out. Victoria set her teacup down with a soft clink. She spoke, her voice as cool as ever. "Uncle Robert, Trevor, I will handle my husband. As for you, Trevor, I heard the waterfront project isn't going as smoothly as planned." Trevor froze, stunned that the tables had turned. No, it's fine. Everything's fine," he stammered. A barely perceptible smile touched Victoria's lips. "Really? Because I heard that to secure the zoning variance, you made a private deal with Julian Vance from Apex Dynamics. If the SEC were to find out about that..." The color drained from Trevor's face. How did you know?" Victoria didn't answer him. She turned to her grandfather. "Grandfather, the waterfront project is too risky, and Trevor's methods are reckless. I recommend we suspend the project pending a full review by our legal and risk management departments." Her words were firm, leaving no room for argument. Grandfather Sinclair considered it for a moment, then nodded. "Do as Victoria says." Trevor looked as if he'd been struck by lightning, slumping into his chair. He was finished. I stood on the sidelines, witnessing the whole thing, my mind reeling. Holy crap, what just happened? How did she know about Trevor's deal with Apex? I was just spitballing. Am I some kind of psychic? No, wait. This woman is terrifying. Her business instincts, her execution. She's a shark in a designer suit. I need to keep my distance, or she'll sell me for parts and I'll end up thanking her for it. Victoria's hand, reaching for her teacup, paused again. A shark? She glanced at the utterly clueless, shocked expression on my face, then thought back to the words in her head. The absurdity of it all was overwhelming. After dismantling Trevor, she didn't even look at me. Grandfather, I have work to do. I'm taking Jake back with me. With that, she stood up and walked out, the clicks of her heels echoing decisively. I scurried after her. Let's go, let's go. This place is a minefield. Home is better. There's food and a big comfy bed. Looks like lunch is off the table here. I'll have to get Maria to make me a bowl of her beef noodle soup when we get back. With 2 eggs. Walking ahead of me, Victoria stumbled, almost twisting her ankle. She caught her balance, took a deep breath, and walked even faster. Right now, all she wanted was to go home and be alone. This whole world had gone completely insane. Back at the mansion, Victoria locked herself in her study. I was happy to have the place to myself. I found Maria, the housekeeper, immediately. Maria, I'm starving. Can you whip something up? Of course, sir. Maria's eyes held a mixture of pity and something else I couldn't quite place. Soon, a steaming bowl of beef noodle soup with 2 perfectly fried eggs on top was placed in front of me. I ate with deep satisfaction. Oh, this is the life. Corporate battles, family drama. Who cares? As long as I've got a full stomach, nothing else matters. That Victoria, she's wound so tight. It must be exhausting. Look at her. She's so skinny a strong wind could knock her over. She should learn from me. A carefree mind makes for a healthy appetite. In the study, Victoria was staring blankly at a stack of documents. Jake's thoughts played like background music in her head. She massaged her throbbing temples. Her move against Trevor at the estate hadn't been premeditated. She hadn't known about his shady deal. It was Jake's inner monologue that had struck her like a bolt of lightning, illuminating a path she hadn't seen. She'd had her assistant do a quick search, and sure enough, there were digital breadcrumbs leading from Trevor to Apex Dynamics. Was it just a coincidence? Or was this man, in some way she couldn't possibly understand, seeing everything? She stood and walked to the floor-to-ceiling window, looking down at the man lying on the lawn, basking in the afternoon sun without a care in the world. He looked, for all intents and purposes, like a complete and utter waste of space. Lazy, unambitious, his only motivation was his next meal. And yet his mind produced these shockingly insightful, random thoughts. Victoria felt a sense of cognitive dissonance unlike anything she'd ever experienced. Just then, her phone rang. It was her assistant, Walter. Ms. Sinclair, it's bad news. The core data for Project Orion, our collaboration with Fastech, has been leaked. Apex Dynamics just announced a competing product that's almost identical to ours. Victoria's heart plummeted. Project Orion was Sinclair Enterprises' flagship initiative for the second half of the year, a massive investment of capital and talent. If it failed, the blow to the company would be catastrophic. How could this happen? It was Kevin Moss, the project's lead engineer. Apex poached him. He took the source code with him. Victoria's face went white. She had promoted Kevin herself, trusted him implicitly. She never imagined a betrayal so swift, so devastating. Man, what do we do? The board is in an uproar. They're all demanding answers. Victoria hung up, the room spinning around her. She gripped her desk to keep from falling. It was over. This crisis was 100 times worse than the incident with Trevor. The CEO of Apex Dynamics, Julian Vance, had been her rival for years. This was clearly a calculated move designed to destroy her. What could she do? Her gaze fell unconsciously to the window. Jake was still sunbathing, a blade of grass dangling from his lips, looking as blissfully ignorant as a lottery winner. Nice sun today. Perfect for a nap. Huh. Why is Victoria still standing at the window? She's been there for like 10 minutes. Looks like a statue. Why is her face so pale? Did something happen? Don't tell me the company's going bankrupt. My gravy train. Is it about to derail? No, this can't be happening. My life as a professional freeloader has just begun. Jake shot up from the grass, his face a mask of apocalyptic terror. Seeing his ridiculously dramatic expression, Victoria felt an absurd crack in her despair. A wild, desperate thought popped in her head. Maybe he has an idea. The moment the thought surfaced, She wanted to laugh at herself. Relying on a man whose brain was occupied solely by food and sleep to solve a corporate life or death crisis? But what if, just like with Trevor, as if possessed, Victoria walked downstairs and out onto the lawn, stopping in front of Jake. "The company's in trouble," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. Jake looked up at her, his face a picture of concern, mostly for his financial security. "Is it serious?" "Very. How serious? Are they still going to be able to make payroll? If Maria doesn't get paid, who's going to cook for me?" Victoria took a deep breath, fighting the urge to crack his skull open and see what was actually inside. She explained the situation in concise terms. Jake listened, his brow furrowed. Apex Dynamics? Julian Vance? That name sounds familiar. Oh, right, I remember from the original Jake's memories. Vance was in college with Victoria, had a huge crush on her. Is this a case of love turned to hate? Was this a soap opera? And that traitor, Kevin Moss. Guys like that are the worst. He needs to pay. Why make things so complicated? Business is just a game of poaching talent and screwing over your rivals. If Apex can buy out Kevin, why can't we just buy him back? Or better yet, pull the rug out from under them and sabotage their new product launch. I think the original Jake heard from his deadbeat friends once that Apex's server provider is a company called Azure Data Solutions, and the owner of that company has a massive gambling problem, owes a ton of money in Vegas. Isn't that the weak point right there? All you have to do is arrange a little accident with Azure servers, and Apex's big product launch becomes a global laughingstock. They'll be too busy putting out their own fires to worry about us. A series of devious plots scrolled through Jake's mind. He was just idly spitballing, the way an armchair general plans a war he'll never fight. But to Victoria, it was a detailed, vicious, and ruthlessly effective battle plan. Pull the rug out from under them. There was again. What was this man's obsession with that phrase? And how could he possibly know about the Azure Data Solutions owner's gambling debts? That kind of information was incredibly obscure. Victoria looked at Jake's harmless, unsuspecting face, and a chill ran down her spine. First, she thought he was a waste of space. Then, she thought he might be a psychic. Now, she was starting to believe he was something else entirely. A hidden mastermind. His laziness, his uselessness. It was all an act. A brilliant disguise to make his enemies underestimate him. Perhaps even marrying her, becoming this trophy husband, was all part of some grand, incomprehensible plan. A terrifying theory began to form in Victoria's mind, and it quickly hardened into conviction. The way she looked at Jake had completely transformed. From ice to confusion, and now to awe and a little bit of terror. "I know what to do." Victoria dropped the sentence and turned on her heel, her stride now filled with the lethal purpose of a predator. Jake stared at her retreating back, utterly bewildered. "What do you know? I didn't say anything. This woman is a whirlwind." "Whatever. Not my problem. Time to finish my nap." Jake lay back down and closed his eyes. He had no idea that a storm was about to sweep through the city's business world, all because of a few irresponsible thoughts from his lazy mind. Victoria's ability to execute was terrifying. She immediately sent Walter to coordinate a two-pronged attack. One team was dispatched to Las Vegas to find the debt-ridden owner of Azure Data Solutions. Another team began gathering every scrap of information about Apex Dynamics' upcoming product launch. By now, Walter followed Victoria's orders without question, especially after he learned that this stroke of genius had once again originated from the enigmatic Mr. Miller. His admiration for Jake had reached biblical proportions. In Walter's eyes, Jake wasn't a man anymore. He was a god, a modern-day oracle who could topple empires with a mere whisper. He even came up with a code name for Jake, the Silent Oracle, because Mr. Miller rarely spoke, but every one of his silences contained world-altering wisdom. I, of course, was oblivious to all of this. I only noticed that the atmosphere in the mansion had gotten a little strange. Maria's gaze had shifted from pity to reverence. Frank the driver would give a slight, almost imperceptible bow whenever he saw me. And Victoria, she kept looking at me with an intensity that was starting to freak me out. She never mentioned the divorce again. In fact, she started being nice to me. She'd have breakfast ready before I even woke up. If I was playing video games late at night, she'd quietly bring me a warm glass of milk. My wardrobe transformed from polo shirts to an array of custom-tailored suits. I felt less like a trophy husband and more like a sacred relic being worshipped. This is the life. Maybe Victoria isn't so cold after all. Her stare is a little creepy, though, like a scientist studying a rare specimen. She hasn't figured me out, has she? Nah, no way. My acting is flawless. She must have had a crisis of conscience, realized she's been treating me poorly, and is trying to make up for it. Yeah, that has to be it. Victoria, reviewing a financial report, heard this and felt the corner of her mouth twitch. Acting? Crisis of conscience? Was this man genuinely clueless, or was this his cryptic way of reminding her not to get complacent? The ways of a master strategist were truly beyond comprehension. 3 days later, Apex Dynamics held the global launch event for their new product, the Apex Star. Julian Vance stood in the spotlight, basking in the glory, ready to announce his victory and deliver the final blow to Victoria Sinclair. The event was being live-streamed worldwide. Victoria and I sat in the mansion's home theater, watching it on a massive screen. I had a large bucket of popcorn in my lap, thoroughly enjoying the show. Here we go, the classic villain's monologue part of the movie. This Vance guy is handsome enough, but man, does he love the sound of his own voice. Get on with it. I want to see him fall on his face. Victoria's plan had better work. My entire lifestyle depends on it. Victoria glanced at me and said coolly, "Don't worry. It will." Huh? I said, startled. How did she know what I was thinking? Must be a coincidence. On the screen, Julian Vance finally finished his long-winded introduction and announced triumphantly, "And now, I declare that the revolutionary Apex Star is officially launched." He pressed a large, theatrical button on a podium. Everyone held their breath, waiting for the magic. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Nothing happened. The main screen behind him remained stubbornly black. The confident smile on Julian's face froze, then cracked. "What's going on?" "Tech support. Tech support," he hissed in his mic. The backstage area erupted into chaos. "Mr. Vance, it's bad. Our main server cluster. It crashed." "What?" Julian looked like he'd been electrocuted. Azure Data Solutions just called. They said their primary data center had an accidental fire. A fire? Julian nearly choked. How could it be so coincidental? A fire at this exact moment? The live chat on the stream exploded. LOL, what is this? The most awkward launch in history. Is this thing even real? Or is it just a PowerPoint? I've seen better presentations at my kids' science fair. Julian's face cycled through shades of red, white, and green. He knew he was finished. This meticulously planned attack had ended in a failure so absurd, it was almost comical. His company, Apex Dynamics, will be the laughingstock of the entire industry. In the theater, I was so engrossed that I forgot to chew the popcorn in my mouth. Holy crap, it worked. A data center fire. Did Victoria actually commit arson? That's hardcore. Vance is going to be crying himself to sleep for a month. But hey, serve him right. Nobody messes with my meal ticket. I slapped my thigh in excitement. The sound echoed in the quiet room. Victoria turned to look at me. Her expression was complicated. There was admiration, amazement, and a hint of exasperation. "I didn't start the fire," she clarified, though she knew I couldn't hear her aloud. The owner of Azure Data Solutions just accidentally tripped over some power cables. After, of course, Walter had persuaded him with a mountain of his gambling IOUs. "Nice work," I said, genuinely impressed. Victoria thought I was complimenting her. She had no idea I was just happy my gravy train was safe. She looked at me and suddenly asked, "So, what do you think the next move should be?" I blinked. She's asking me? What I know? Well, obviously, you kick a man when he's down. Apex's stock is about to tank, and everyone internally is going to be panicking. If it were me, I'd swoop in with a pile of cash, buy back that traitor Kevin Moss and his whole team. While I'm at it, I'd acquire Apex's few valuable assets at a bargain price. With one move, you not only recover your losses, but turn a massive profit. Checkmate. Having run through the perfect revenge fantasy in my head, I looked at her and said aloud, I have no idea. You're the expert on this stuff." Victoria gave me a long, deep look. She understood. The Oracle was testing her intuition. "I see," she said. She left it at that, picking up her phone and starting to issue a new set of commands. I watched her decisive, commanding figure and shrank back a little. This woman is getting scarier by the day. Whatever. I haven't finished my popcorn. I went back to my bucket, a happy spectator to the corporate carnage. What did the blood and guts of the business world have to do with me? I just wanted to live a quiet life of leisure. The collapse of Apex Dynamics was faster than anyone could have imagined. The data center fire debacle was the final straw. The stock price plummeted into oblivion. Partners terminated their contracts, and employees fled the sinking ship. Victoria seized this golden opportunity and launched a textbook counteroffensive. She personally met with the traitorous engineer, Kevin Moss. Kevin's position at Apex was already precarious. Now, with the company in ruins, he was the primary scapegoat. Victoria didn't rub salt in the wound. Instead, she offered him a full pardon and a better deal. More autonomy and a generous stock package if he brought his team back to Sinclair Enterprises. At the same time, Sinclair's M&A division moved like a starved shark, swiftly and precisely snapping up Apex's most valuable assets for pennies on the dollar. The 1-2 punch completely decimated Julian Vance. In less than 2 weeks, the landscape of the industry had been redrawn. Sinclair Enterprises had not only recouped its losses from Project Orion, but had also absorbed the lion's share of its biggest rival, cementing its market dominance. Victoria's authority on the board was now absolute. And I, the secret mastermind behind it all, was groaning on the couch because I couldn't get a rare cosmetic skin in a video game. This is rigged. I hit the pity timer again. This gaming company is a scam. Victoria, who was reviewing a document, heard my thoughts, and the tip of her pen paused. She looked up at me rolling around on the sofa, silently took out her phone, and transferred $100,000 to my gaming account. A moment later, she heard my ecstatic shout. Whoa, who's my guardian angel? Who just dropped $100,000 on me? It has to be Victoria. She's totally in love with me. I knew it. My charms are irresistible. Victoria. She was beginning to think she needed to seriously reevaluate this man's mental processes. She put down her work and came to sit beside me. The business with Apex is over, she said. Oh yeah? That's great. I replied distractedly, my eyes glued to the loot box animation on my phone. Finally, my meal ticket is officially secure. I can now be a full-time professional slacker without a care in the world. Victoria watched my completely carefree display and felt an unexpected urge to smile. For weeks, she had been living in a world of her own making, imagining Jake as a calculating, deep-thinking mastermind. But now, watching him celebrate over a video game skin, she thought, maybe he really is just a simple-minded slacker. But how could a simple slacker know so many business secrets? This extreme contradiction made her more curious about me than ever. Thank you for this, she said, her tone serious. I looked up from my game. In the soft evening light, the sharp angles of her face seemed softer, the usual ice and distance gone. Thank me for what? You're the one who did all the work, I said sincerely. Damn right. And don't you forget whose wife she is. Can the woman of Jake Millard be anything less than brilliant? I might just be the guy who married into money, but I still have my pride. A strange warmth spread through Victoria's chest when she heard that. The guy. He was on her side, even if he'd never say it. What would you like as a reward? She asked. My eyes lit up. Here it is. Bonus time. What should I ask for? Cash. Too crude. A car? I don't drive. A house? This mansion is big enough. I've got it. I want her to promise to never nag me about playing video games, never tell me when to go to bed, and to double my monthly allowance. I clear my throat, preparing to unveil my well-thought-out master plan for a better life. But Victoria spoke first. I've had my realtor purchase a plot of land just outside the city. I was thinking of building an equestrian center. In your name. How does that sound? Me, huh? An equestrian center? Can you eat that? That's going to cost a fortune. She should just give me the cash instead. This woman is terrible with money. Victoria. She took back the flicker of warmth she had just felt. This man was first and foremost a hedonist. You don't like it? She asked, raising an eyebrow. I love it. It's perfect. I immediately plastered a look of thrilled surprise on my face. You're the best wife ever. Whatever, an equestrian center is fine. At least it's a hard asset. I can always sell it later if I need cash. Victoria decided not to engage with his brand of logic. She looked at me and said suddenly, "Jake, what if we just stayed like this?" I froze. The living room was quiet except for the background music from my game. Her eyes were no longer cold or searching. They held something I couldn't quite decipher. An expectation. What does she mean? She doesn't want a divorce. Has she been completely conquered by my talent, my face, and my charm, my commitment to doing nothing? Of course, staying together is good. It's my dream. A beautiful wife, endless money, and no responsibilities. This is heaven. But I couldn't say that. I had to play it cool. I had to project an aura of magnanimity, of you hurt me, but I'm willing to give you a second chance. I gathered my emotions and said in a low, magnetic voice, "Let's let the past be the past. As long as, from now on, you're good to me." Victoria watched my pathetic attempt at acting and almost laughed out loud. But she held it in. She nodded very seriously. Okay, the crisis was averted. Our détente was official, and my future as a professional freeloader looked bright. I returned to my game, completely content. I thought the good times were here to stay. But I forgot that in this world, besides annoying relatives and corporate rivals, there's an even more terrifying creature. Namely, my own deadbeat parents. Just when I thought I could settle into my life of leisure, I got a phone call. It was from my so-called father, Leo Miller. "Son, your mother and I, we're back in the States." His voice boomed over the line, full of life. My stomach clenched. According to the original Jake's memories, his parents were world-class grifters. In their youth, they were a pair of wannabe artists who, in their quest for truth and beauty, dumped their newborn son on his grandfather and took off to travel the world. After the grandfather passed away and the inheritance ran out, they somehow managed to sweet-talk grandfather Sinclair into this marriage, effectively selling their son into servitude for a hefty dowry. Then they promptly flew back to Europe to continue their artistic journey. It was fair to say that the original Jake's uselessness was a direct result of his spectacularly irresponsible parents. And now they were back. I didn't need a crystal ball to know why. They were broke again. Oh, great. The freeloaders-in-chief have arrived. There goes my allowance. I have to warn Victoria, get her prepared. When those two start scheming, they don't care about collateral damage. I hung up and immediately ran to the study to find Victoria. She was in the middle of a video conference. Not wanting to interrupt, I just poked my head in the door. Still in meetings? Capitalists. All they do is exploit the working class. She does look good when she's focused, though. A woman with a mission is a powerful thing. On the screen, a man with a British accent was giving a report. Victoria suddenly cut him off. "My apologies, Paul. Give me a minute." She muted her mic and turned to me, her brow furrowed. "What is it?" She saw me. I quickly pulled my head back. Victoria rubbed her temples. The man's thoughts were in 360-degree surround sound. It was impossible not to hear them. She told the conference call, "Let's take a 10-minute break," then stood up and walked toward me. "What's so urgent?" My parents. They're back," I said a bit sheepishly. Selling your own son isn't exactly a point of pride. Victoria's expression didn't change. Clearly, she was already aware of my colorful parents. "Okay, and I just wanted to give you a heads up," I mumbled, scratching my head. "They'll probably come looking for you." Translation, they're coming to ask for money. You have to stand your ground. Don't fall for their sob stories. Protect the family fortune. Victoria looked at my face, which was contorted with an expression of, I'm carrying the weight of this family on my shoulders, and felt a strange mix of annoyance and amusement. "I understand," she said. "You don't need to worry." "You're not worried, but I am. They're a pair of bottomless pits, whatever. She's smart. She won't fall for it." Feeling slightly more at ease, I turned to leave. "Wait," Victoria called out. "Tonight, you're coming with me to a charity gala." I stopped. A charity gala? One of those places where a bunch of phonies in tuxedos stand around drinking champagne and line each other? Boring. I'd rather stay home and play my game. "The catering is by a Michelin 3-star chef," Victoria added. My eyes instantly lit up. I'm in. Absolutely 100% in. The speed of my transformation was, to Victoria, a constant source of wonder. She was now reasonably certain that motivating this man required only one thing. That evening, dressed in a tuxedo Victoria had picked out for me, I arrived at the gala by her side. The place was a glittering sea of expensive gowns and hushed conversations. The moment Victoria entered, she became the center of attention. People flocked to greet her, their eyes flicking over to me with undisguised curiosity and contempt. I didn't care. My eyes were locked on the buffet table in the distance. Whoa, Lobster Towers. A Wagyu carving station. Is that a black truffle risotto bar? I've hit the jackpot. Why won't Victoria move? What's so interesting about talking to these people? Unleash me upon the buffet. Victoria, fending off a smarmy real estate developer, was getting a mental earful of my gastronomic desires. The vein in her temple throbbed. She made an excuse, broke away, and came to my side, hissing, "Try to have a little class." "But I'm hungry," I muttered. Just then, a grating voice cut through the air. Well, if it isn't the great Victoria Sinclair. And this must be the legendary king of freeloaders I've heard so much about. I turned to see Julian Vance. On his arm was a woman dressed in a flashy, revealing gown. Vance had taken a huge hit after the data center fire, but he wasn't completely out. By selling off assets, he'd managed to stay afloat. Now, he was staring at us with pure venom in his eyes. Victoria's face hardened. I ignored him. My attention was entirely captivated by the woman next to him. Wait a minute. Isn't that the original Jake's side piece? What was her name? Lily? Lola. This girl is so out of her league. Vance brought her as his date just to piss off Victoria? He seriously underestimates my wife's composure. But wait, I think she knows some of Vance's dirty secrets. I remember the original Jake hearing her, drunk at a party once, bragging that Vance got his start by laundering money for some guy named Mr. Kincaid. Kincaid? Who's that? Never heard of him. Whatever. Food time. My internal monologue hit Victoria's mind like a ton of bricks. Kincaid. Money laundering. Her pupils dilated. A generation ago, in her father's time, Sinclair Enterprises had a powerful rival with that name. Then Mr. Kincaid had suddenly gone bankrupt under mysterious circumstances and fled the country, disappearing without a trace. Could it be him? Julian Vance's meteoric rise had always been a mystery. He had appeared out of nowhere with deep pockets and an unknown backer. If Mr. Kincaid was the one behind him, it all made sense. Apex Dynamics' attack on Sinclair Enterprises wasn't just business competition. It was a long-simmering revenge plot. A cold sweat broke out on Victoria's back. She thought she had won by defeating Vance. Now she realized she had only taken out a pawn. The Real King was still hiding in the shadows. And the one to uncover it all was, once again, the man standing beside her, whose only current thought was about the risotto bar. She looked at me, her expression beyond complex. It was the way one looks at a deity. Julian Vance was still spewing insults. Victoria didn't have the patience for it anymore. She grabbed my hand and turned to leave. "We're going home." "Hey, I haven't eaten yet," I protested, being dragged away, craning my neck for one last, longing look at the mountain of lobster. My lobster. My Wagyu, what's a problem now? Even if the world is ending, you have to let a man eat. Victoria walked even faster. She had to get home now and reevaluate everything. As for my lobster, she decided she would hire the Michelin chef to come to the mansion tomorrow and cook for me all day. As long as she could keep her oracle happy, she wouldn't just get him lobster. She'd find a way to lasso the moon if he asked for it. Back home, Victoria locked herself in the study and didn't emerge all night. I, mourning the loss of a great feast, channeled my grief into hunger and had Maria make me a 6-egg omelet, which only slightly soothed my soul. The next morning, I was woken by a knock on my bedroom door. "Who is it?" I grumbled. "Mr. Miller, it's Walter." I opened the door to find Victoria's assistant, dressed impeccably, holding a massive food container and looking at me with an expression of pure adoration. "Ms. Sinclair asked me to bring you breakfast." I opened the container. It was a feast, from French pastries and Belgian waffles to a full English breakfast and Japanese tamagoyaki. Not bad. The service around here is getting better and better. I guess last night's sacrifice was worth it. I started eating my luxurious breakfast while Walter stood by the door, straight as a board. "You can sit down, Walter." "You don't have to stand there," I said, pointing to a chair. No, thank you, sir. I'm fine standing," he replied, looking honored by the suggestion. "So, where's Victoria?" I asked between bites. She was gone before the sun was up. Ms. Sinclair is presiding over an emergency board meeting, Walter reported. She asked me to tell you that your only task today is to relax. Whatever you want to eat, whatever you want to do, just let me know. My task is to relax. I can get behind that. But this feels serious. Is it about that Mr. Kincaid guy? These rich people and their endless feuds. So boring. I'd rather think about what's for lunch. Walter, hearing my thoughts broadcast into Victoria's mind and then relayed to him, stood up even straighter. Mr. Miller was, as always, one step ahead. The emergency meeting was, in fact, about how to handle the threat of Mr. Kincaid. And yet, Mr. Miller remained so calm, so unconcerned, as if he had already seen the outcome. This was the tranquility of a true master. Walter's admiration for me reached new heights. He looked at me, his eyes practically glowing. Sir, regarding Mr. Kincaid, do you have any further instructions for us? I had a mouthful of bacon and mumbled, what about him? How does he know I was thinking about Kincaid? Did I say that out loud? No, I'm pretty sure I didn't. I swallowed quickly, looking at Walter with suspicion. Walter, assuming this was a test, snapped to attention. Sir, you don't need to test me. Ms. Sinclair has briefed me on everything. We all know that you are the true North Star of this company. Me? North Star? I'm a black hole of laziness. Has Walter lost his mind? I have no idea what he's talking about. What has Victoria been telling these people? Don't tell me she's claiming all her brilliant moves were my ideas. Holy crap, that woman is devious. She's trying to push me out front to be a human shield. No way. I have to set the record straight. I'm just a guy who married well. When the sky falls, you tall people are supposed to hold it up. I looked at Walter with an expression of pure sincerity. Walter, you've got it all wrong. I'm just a useless freeloader who doesn't know anything. Victoria runs this company all by herself. I don't help at all. Walter was even more moved. Look, such noble character. He achieves victory, but seeks no credit, content to remain in the shadows. Mr. Miller was a living legend. He was so overwhelmed he almost fell to his knees. Sir, I understand. I completely understand. You can rest assured, my lips are sealed. I will never breathe a word of this to anyone. You will forever be our silent oracle. Me? I looked at Walter's face, which screamed, I have constructed an elaborate fantasy in my head, and now I believe it. And I gave up. Forget it. Let the world burn. No one understood the struggles of a professional freeloader. Just then, my phone rang. It was my father, Leo. Son, we're at your front gate. Come let us in. My scalp prickled. The inevitable had arrived. I dragged myself to the massive front door and opened it. Standing there was a pair of aggressively artistic middle-aged people. The man, my father Leo, was wearing a faded denim jacket, his long graying hair tied back in a small ponytail. A pair of aviator sunglasses hid his eyes as he held a guitar, staring wistfully into the distance. The woman, my mother Sharon, wore a flowing bohemian dress and a wide-brimmed hat, with at least 6 different scarves draped around her neck. She was holding a large canvas. They looked like they were scouting locations for a folk music festival. Dad, Mom, I said, my voice flat. Oh, my baby boy. Sharon dropped her canvas and rushed forward to pull me into a bone-crushing hug. Let me look at you. You've lost weight. Are they treating you poorly here at the Sinclair house? Me? Lost weight? I've gained 10 pounds. I'm being served gourmet meals 3 times a day. How am I being treated poorly? I'm being treated like a king. Leo strolled over and clapped me on the shoulder with the air of a wise old sage. Son, a man must sometimes endure. This is a strategic retreat. You understand? I understand that you sold me for cash, and now you want me to thank you for it. Victoria appeared behind me, as if from nowhere. She was dressed down today in a simple cream-colored cashmere dress, which softened her usual sharp edges. She spoke calmly. Leo, Sharon, you must be tired from your journey. Please come in. The moment my parents saw Victoria, their eyes lit up like a Vegas slot machine. Oh, Victoria, dear, you look more beautiful every time I see you. Sharon gushed, taking Victoria's hand. Our Jake is the luckiest man in the world to have a wonderful wife like you. Leo added, right on cue. Here we go. Phase 1, flattery. Phase 2, the sob story should be coming up next. Victoria, hold the line. Do not surrender. I watch her nervously, terrified she might fall for their act. But Victoria remained perfectly composed. She gently moved me behind her and faced them, a polite smile on her face. You're too kind. Jake is a wonderful man. Yeah, I'm wonderful. Wonderfully useful for finding you a rich daughter-in-law. The corner of Victoria's mouth twitched. In the living room, we all sat down. Maria served tea. After a few minutes of pleasantries, Sharon launched into her performance. First, she gave a dramatic monologue about the hardships of being a true artist in a commercial world. Then, she pivoted to the real reason they were here. Victoria, darling, I'll be honest with you. Your father-in-law and I have hit a creative wall. We want to open a small art studio, a non-profit, to help aspiring young artists find their voice. But the startup capital. She trailed off, dabbing at a non-existent tear. Leo, sitting beside her, began strumming a mournful tune on his guitar, providing the perfect soundtrack. They were a well-oiled machine. And there it is. They're going straight for the kill. An art studio? Why not ask for a museum? Victoria, don't do it. Giving them money is like throwing it into a black hole. If you give them a dime, I swear I'll go on a hunger strike. I was practically vibrating with anxiety. Victoria took a slow sip of her tea. Then, under my pleading gaze, she smiled. Sharon, that's a wonderful idea. Supporting the arts is a very meaningful cause. My heart sank. It's over. She's been brainwashed. My status in this household is about to plummet. Leo and Sharon beamed. So about the funding. The funding is no problem, Victoria said, setting down her cup and uttering a sentence that nearly gave me an aneurysm. I will personally provide $50 million to establish an arts center for you in the best part downtown. Furthermore, Sinclair Enterprises will create a foundation to support young artists, which you two will manage. Me? 50 million? Has she lost her mind? Do you know how many lobsters that is? How many rare game skins? And a foundation. She's putting these two financially illiterate grifters in charge of a foundation? Does she have too much money? Is she actively trying to set it on fire? This woman is a menace to our financial stability. I was shaking with silent rage, on the verge of standing up and objecting. Leo and Sharon were already delirious with joy. Oh, Victoria, you are the best daughter-in-law in the world. On behalf of all the dreamers out there, we thank you. Victoria smiled, but her eyes flickered toward me. However, I have one condition. Anything. Name it. Victoria looked directly at me and said, slowly and clearly, the legal owner of the Arts Center and the foundation must be Jake, and all financial disbursements must be personally signed and approved by him. The joyous smiles on my parents' faces froze solid. My brain short-circuited. What? I'm the owner? I'm in charge of the money? Wait a minute. Doesn't that just mean the money moved from her pocket to my pocket? This woman. She's a genius. An absolute genius. This way, she placates my parents, but gives the actual power to me. If they want money, they have to come to me. My household status hasn't just been saved. It's been upgraded to God tier. I stared at Victoria, my mind blown. This woman was terrifying. Not only could she make money, she could play politics like a chess grandmaster. My simple freeloader brain was a checkerboard in comparison. Victoria met my stunned gaze, a flicker of triumph in her eyes. She had, of course, heard my every frantic thought. This was her way of telling me, I'll handle your parents. I'll secure your position. All you have to do is stay by my side and continue being my oracle. As for the 50 million, to the newly expanded Sinclair Enterprises, it was a rounding error. A small price to pay to neutralize a lifelong annoyance and keep her secret weapon happy. It was the best deal she'd made all year. Ever since I took control of the family finances, specifically the $50 million art foundation, my life had changed dramatically. My parents' attitude towards me did a complete 180. I went from baby boy to Mr. Miller. They were constantly trying to butter me up, inventing new and creative ways to flatter me, all in the hope that I'd approve one of their ludicrous funding requests. I, in turn, perfectly executed Victoria's unspoken directive. I made them submit detailed proposals for every single expenditure. Buying a paintbrush required a 3-page report on brand comparison, intended use, and projected artistic return on investment. Renting a studio space required a full market analysis with at least 3 competing quotes. I took all the pain I had endured from corporate bureaucracy in my past life and inflicted it upon them, tenfold. It didn't take long for Leo and Sharon to crack. They came to me in tears, saying they were abandoning their artistic dreams and just wanted to go back to Europe. I magnanimously approved a $20,000 severance package and personally drove them to the airport. The world was finally quiet. I lay on the sofa, eating freshly sliced mango Maria had prepared, feeling like I had reached the absolute pinnacle of human existence. Bliss, so this is what power feels like. That Victoria, she's my lucky star. Victoria, reviewing a quarterly report nearby, heard my self-congratulatory thoughts and shook her head with a weary smile. He could be bought so easily. She was seriously starting to doubt her whole hidden mastermind theory. Maybe he really was just an idiot with supernatural luck. Just then, Walter rushed in, his face grim. Ms. Sinclair, Mr. Miller, there's a problem. I nearly choked on a piece of mango. Again? Can't a man enjoy his freeloader status in peace? What is it? Victoria's expression turned serious. Mr. Kincaid, he's back, Walter said, his voice strained. He announced a hostile takeover of Apex Dynamics this morning. He's merged it with several other firms to create something called the Phoenix Consortium. And their stated goal is the complete dismantling of Sinclair Enterprises. The air in the room turned to ice. I didn't know the full story of this Kincaid guy, but from the looks on Victoria and Walter's faces, I knew this was the final boss. The Phoenix Consortium? Sounds ominous. So the main villain has finally entered the game. Can Victoria handle this? If she loses, my life of leisure is officially over. I looked at Victoria nervously. Her brow was furrowed, her face set in a grim, unfamiliar expression of deep concern. He's come prepared, she said softly. A lot of the Apex assets we acquired were booby-trapped. I think those traps are about to spring. Walter nodded grimly. Ma'am, they're coming at us from all sides. Our initial projections are not good. Victoria fell silent. For the first time, she looked vulnerable. Kincaid was a titan from her father's generation, a ruthless operator with connections that ran deep. He may have been gone for over a decade, but a man like that doesn't lose his fangs. She had performed well in the recent skirmishes, but she was still young. Did she really stand a chance against an old predator like him? The study was deathly quiet. I looked at Victoria's face, etched with exhaustion and stress, and felt a strange pang in my chest. She has it rough. So young, carrying the weight of this massive company. Her life is just endless meetings and crises. If I were her, I'd have quit a long time ago. Too bad I can't help. The only thing I'm good at is eating. Wait a second. A flicker of something ignited in my mind. There's a memory from the original Jake. When he was a little kid, he was playing hide-and-seek at the old Sinclair estate. He accidentally found a secret room in his grandfather's study. And in that room, there was a ledger. He couldn't read, but he remembered it was a fancy-looking book. He even tore a page out to make a paper airplane. That ledger, I think it was a record of all of Mr. Kincaid's dirty dealings from back in the day. All his illegal activities. Holy crap, that's not just leverage. That's a nuke. Is it still there? Where was it? I frantically began digging through the mental junk pile of the original Jake's memories. Victoria had been sinking into despair, but this sudden flood of thoughts hit her mind like a defibrillator. A secret room? A ledger? Illegal activities? She shot up from her chair, her eyes locking onto me, blazing with an intensity that stunned me. Jake, she cried, her voice trembling. I jumped. WH what? Your grandfather's study. She grabbed my arm, her grip surprisingly strong. The secret room in his study. Where is it? I was dumbfounded. How does she know I was thinking about a secret room? Could it be that she can actually... A wild, impossible, terrifying theory began to crystallize in my mind. I looked into her desperate, hopeful eyes, and, as a test, I thought one simple sentence. You can hear me, can't you? I saw her entire body go rigid. Her pupils expanded. The color drained from her face, leaving her as pale as a ghost. It was over. It was all over. She stared at me. I stared at her. The air was thick with a silence, more deafening than a scream. My life of leisure, my days of bliss, my newfound power. In that single moment, it all evaporated into smoke. My mind went completely blank, save for 3 words. Social. Suicide. Complete. Victoria and I sat in the study in absolute silence for 10 minutes. It was the longest 10 minutes of my life. My brain went from a blue screen of death to a frantic reboot sequence, and finally, to complete system shutdown. There was no point in fighting it. The secret was out. My entire inner world had been an open book to her this whole time. I slumped back in my chair in defeat, adopting an expression that said, "I've got nothing left to hide. Do your worst." Well, fine. She can hear me. So what? It's not like I said anything that bad. Okay, maybe I complained about her spending habits, called her a shark, fantasized about her fortune, and thought about having kids with her. Yeah, okay, that sounds pretty bad. Is she going to kick me out now? For real this time? Should I still tell her about the ledger? If I do, it might save me. If I don't, and she kicks me out, I'll have nothing. A war raged in my mind. Victoria's face was a storm of conflicting emotions. She was just as thrown by this sudden, mutual revelation. She always thought she was being so clever, so discreet. Turns out, she was the one being played, or, at least, the one completely misreading the situation. She listened to my frantic, self-serving calculations, and a vein in her temple pulsed. But she didn't have time for that now. The priority was the ledger. She took a deep, steadying breath and broke the silence. Is a ledger real? I looked at her and nodded. Duh, of course it's real. Why would I make that up? Victoria ignored my disrespectful inner commentary. Where is it? She pressed. I have to think. I closed my eyes, focusing all my energy on excavating the original Jake's memory. It was ancient. A little boy, chasing a butterfly in an old mansion, stumbling through a hidden door. A dusty room. A rosewood box on a shelf. It's in your grandfather's study, behind that big antique curio cabinet. On the 3rd shelf, there's a porcelain vase. You turn it clockwise 3 times, and the cabinet slides open. I replayed the information in my head. Victoria was already on her feet. Walter, get the car. We're going to the estate. Now. Her voice was sharp and decisive, as if our awkward moment had never happened. I watched her, a little nervous. She just believes me. What if I'm wrong? This could be a huge waste of time. Victoria looked back at me. You're coming with me. Me, huh? You have to, she said, her tone leaving no room for argument. I got it. She didn't fully trust the information. She needed me there to verify it in person. What could I say? I obediently followed her out. The car ride to the Sinclair estate was excruciatingly quiet. Victoria and I sat on opposite ends of the spacious leather seat, a metaphorical ocean between us. I didn't dare look at her, focusing instead on the tips of my shoes. She's definitely mad. Who wouldn't be? Your husband turns out to be a living, breathing, internal monologue of constant criticism. This is it. The divorce is back on the table. Is my life as a freeloader really going to end in a blaze of social awkwardness? This sucks. The more I thought, the more pathetic I felt. I started wondering if that $1 million severance package was still an option. Victoria sat with her eyes closed, leaning against the headrest, not saying a word. She was angry, but not about my internal commentary. She was angry at herself for being so completely fooled for so long. A hidden mastermind? The silent oracle? It was all a fantasy she had constructed in her own head. The reality was that he was a lazy, lucky, insufferable professional slacker. And yet, somehow, this exact man, with his ridiculous inner monologue, always managed to give her the key to survival at the most critical moments. It was infuriating. It was maddening. And it was indispensable. She felt a sense of reliance on him that she was not yet ready to admit, even to herself. Soon, we arrived at the estate. Grandfather Sinclair was in the garden, practicing Tai Chi. He looked surprised to see us arrive in such a hurry. Victoria? Jake? Is something wrong? Grandfather, I need to borrow your study, Victoria said, cutting straight to the point. She grabbed my hand and pulled me inside, locking the door behind us. The old man was left standing in the hallway, looking utterly baffled. Inside the study, Victoria went straight to the antique curio cabinet. She looked at me expectantly. I pointed to the porcelain vase on the 3rd shelf. That's the one. Clockwise. 3 turns. Victoria, following my unspoken instructions, reached out and took hold of the vase. Her hand was trembling slightly. She was betting the entire future of her company on this. She took a deep breath and slowly turned the vase. One turn, two, three. With a soft click, the entire cabinet shifted, sliding silently to the side to reveal a dark, hidden doorway. A wave of musty air washed over us. Victoria and I looked at each other, a shared spark of excitement in our eyes. Holy crap, it's real. My brain is actually good for something. I felt a surge of pride. Victoria ignored my inner celebration and stepped through the doorway. The secret room was small and simple, containing only a single bookshelf and a wooden box. She walked directly to the rosewood box and opened it. Inside, nestled on faded silk, was a blue, cloth-bound ledger. It was old, the edges yellowed with age, but it was perfectly preserved. Victoria lifted it out and opened it to the first page. Her breath caught in her throat. It was all there. A meticulous record of Kincaid's crimes. How he used illegal means to acquire state assets, his collusion with foreign entities, his money laundering schemes. Every transaction was detailed. Every crime was undeniable. It even implicated several powerful figures who were still active today. This wasn't just business dirt. This was a bomb capable of leveling the entire industry and shaking the political establishment. With this, Victoria's voice trembled with emotion. We have the ultimate bargaining chip. I leaned in for a closer look. Terrible handwriting. So, this thing is that powerful? How much is it worth? Victoria closed the ledger and clutched it to her chest, as if it were the most precious object in the world. She turned to face me. This time, her eyes were clear of all the previous emotions, the coldness, the suspicion, the awe, the anger. All that was left was a pure, profound radiance that threatened to swallow me whole. Jake! She walked toward me, step by step. Thank you. And then, before I could process what was happening, she stood on her toes and pressed a soft, gentle kiss to my cheek. It was warm, and it carried the faint, cool scent of her perfume. For the second time that day, my brain crashed. She kissed me. What's happening? Is this a reward? Or is it the final act of kindness before she has me whacked? My heart was hammering against my ribs, harder than it ever had before. Victoria saw my dumbfounded expression, and, for the first time, a genuine, dazzling smile broke across her face. It was like watching a glacier melt in the spring sun. Let's go, she said, taking my hand. It's time we paid a visit to Mr. Kincaid. Her hand was soft and cool, but as she held it, a warmth spread from my palm all the way to my heart. Whatever. Even if this is a trap, I'm okay with it. Better to die happy. I let her lead me, dazed, out of the secret room. With the ledger in our possession, everything that followed was surprisingly simple. Victoria didn't leak it to the press. That would have caused a massive implosion, taking down Kincaid, but also causing immense collateral damage. She chose a more elegant solution. She anonymously mailed a single, copied page from the ledger to Mr. Kincaid. It detailed his single largest illegal transaction. I don't know what Kincaid's reaction was, but I know that the very next day, he called Victoria and requested a meeting. The meeting was held at a private, exclusive club. Victoria brought only me. I hadn't wanted to go. What's a freeloader like me going to do at a meeting of titans? Be the emotional support freeloader? But Victoria had said, I feel safer when you're there. Is that true? Or is she just using me as a human lie detector and idea generator? Capitalists. No conscience. Despite my internal grumbling, I went. After all, she had kissed me. I felt a certain responsibility. The private room was thick with tension. An old man with a full head of white hair, but sharp, predatory eyes, sat at the head of the table. That was Kincaid. He saw Victoria enter with me, a man who clearly looked like he'd rather be anywhere else, and a flicker of disdain crossed his face. Victoria, my dear, we're here to discuss serious matters. It's hardly appropriate to bring a guest. Victoria calmly sat down across from him, pulling me into the chair beside her. He's not a guest, she said coolly. He's my husband. Kincaid's eyes lingered on me for a moment before he let out a dismissive snort. Clearly, he'd heard of my reputation. Go ahead and sneer, old man. You won't be sneering for long. My wife knows all your dirty little secrets. Kincaid had no idea that the harmless-looking young man across from him was, in his mind, gleefully planning his demise. The negotiation began. Kincaid came out swinging, all bluster and threats, posturing as if he were ready to burn both their empires to the ground. Victoria listened patiently, without a single interruption. When he was finally done, she slowly, deliberately, took the blue ledger from her briefcase and placed it on the table between them. Kincaid's pupils contracted to pinpricks. The color drained from his face, leaving it a pasty, sickly gray. "Where? Where did you get that?" he stammered, his voice shaking. "Mr. Kincaid, it doesn't matter where I got it," Victoria said with a serene smile. "All that matters is that I have copies stored in several of the most secure locations on Earth. If anything were to happen to me, or my family, those copies would be delivered to every person you would least like them to see." It was a blatant threat, and it was devastatingly effective. Kincaid collapsed back into his chair, looking as if his strings had been cut. He knew he had lost, utterly and completely. "What do you want?" he rasped. "It's simple," Victoria said, holding up a single finger. 1. You will dissolve the Phoenix Consortium and cease all hostilities against Sinclair Enterprises. 2. You will transfer all of your domestic assets to my company for 10 cents on the dollar. And 3. You and your family will leave this country and never, ever return. Each demand was a dagger. She wasn't just defeating him. She was erasing him. Kincaid stared at Victoria, his eyes filled with a toxic mixture of hatred and despair. But he had no choice. After a long, heavy silence, he closed his eyes in defeat. "I agree. A corporate war that could have reshaped the nation's economy ended, just like that, in a quiet room with a blue book on the table. When we stepped outside, the sun was bright and warm. I stretched my arms wide. It's over. My meal ticket is no longer just a meal ticket. It's a forged-in-fire, lifetime guaranteed, ironclad contract." Victoria walked beside me, a faint smile playing on her lips as she listened to my thoughts. She suddenly stopped and turned to face me. "Jake." "Yeah. Let's have another wedding." I blinked. "A wedding? Why? Aren't we already married?" Victoria looked at me, her eyes soft and serious. "The first one didn't count. I want everyone to know that you are my husband, Jake Miller. Not a trophy husband, not a freeloader, but my one and only indispensable partner." My stupid heart started doing acrobatics again, in the bright sunlight. Her eyes shone more brilliantly than any star. I looked at her, and, as if possessed by a spirit far more romantic than my own, I had a thought. "At this wedding, can we have lobster?" The tender expression on Victoria's face froze for a split second. She took a deep breath and said, through gritted teeth, "All you can eat." I grinned. This wife is a keeper. I reached out, and for the first time, I took her hand. It was still cool to the touch, but this time, my hand was there to keep it warm. The road ahead was long, but I figured that with the two of us together, one to have the crazy thoughts and one to make them happen, life was going to be pretty interesting. My life as a freeloader. It was starting to feel a lot less like freeloading, and a lot more like a pretty sweet deal. Months later, on a private island in the Maldives, I was in swim trunks and sunglasses, lounging on a beach chair, sipping coconut water. Victoria, looking stunning in a bikini, was reading a book on the chair next to me. Life was good. I sighed contentedly. Everything is perfect, but I feel like something is still missing. I need to figure out a way to get her to have a baby with me. A girl, preferably. One that looks just like her. That way, when the kid grows up, she can take over the company, and I can officially retire and spend my days being a cool grandpa. I'm a genius. Beside me, Victoria slowly lowered her book. She turned, took off her sunglasses, and fixed me with a look that was equal parts amused and dangerous. Slowly, she leaned over, her lips close to my ear, and whispered in a voice that was both a threat and a promise. "Okay. End."